Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Kickbase podcast. We're here kind of reviewing Game Week 2 and previewing Game Week 3. So stick around for some insights, some previews, and some thoughts that we kind of thought about this last game week. And overall, we went to a stadium. I'm actually here with my usual co-host, Justin Ruderman. Justin, thank you for coming on.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me on. As always, excited to talk some MLS, some Kickbase. It was another fun weekend in Game Week 2, and I think we could both agree the stars finally showed out this week.
Yeah, look, I truly think that it was a great game week, an expected game week. I think there wasn't too many shockers like Game Week 1, but we also we went to our first Red Bulls game, and I want to touch a little bit about that because me and Justin now have gone to quite a lot of stadiums around the league, and Red Bulls is another one we can kind of get off of our checklist. So, Justin, what was your first thoughts of the stadium and kind of what the Red Bulls had to offer?
My first thoughts in the stadium were it was far out there. We're from Brooklyn. We had to travel a while. The trains were down a little bit, but it was still a good experience. The people there got a good atmosphere. I thought that the supporter section was pretty loud. I've heard a lot about MLS that I started in LA, and we hear a lot about LAFC and their fan base there. And people act like there aren't other fan bases around the league. I think there are. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't a full stadium.
Yeah.
But I thought the fans that were there were pretty loud. But what did you think?
Yeah, honestly, I want to give a little bit of insight. We live in Brooklyn, so it takes us about an hour to get there usually, right? But today, or the day that we went, it was, 40 minutes to, get over to New Jersey. But then the train line was down and we had to hop on a shuttle, and it took us about another 30 to 40 minutes from the shuttle to get to the stadium. So honestly, not ideal, right? I mean, how do you expect people to, travel an hour 30 each way, or maybe even 2, right, depending on traffic, to kind of go see a game? And that's just wild to me, right? Because when you call yourself the New York, and it takes 2 hours to get there from New York, I understand it's tough, to get a stadium in the actual city, but I'm excited for when NYCFC comes to town too, and we're gonna go see NYCFC this next week. Or this weekend, and I'm excited to kind of see how that home opener feels too. I'm a little disappointed because this Red Bull team is exciting.
Yeah,
it's an exciting team. There is stars. Like, to me, it was puzzling because one, there's stars on this team, Choupo-Moting and Forsberg, guys that are recognizable.
Yeah,
there's also great young talents.
Yeah,
and then you also have great CONCACAF players like a Cade Cowell. So this team, to me, has everything you would want in an MLS team. A great a young, good coach that has to, prove himself on the big stage, which he has already, or somewhat, at least 2 games in. You have 2 great young stars in Mehmeti and Julian Hall.
Yep.
And you have Forsberg, like an MVP candidate. So to me, it was puzzling to see the numbers come out where it was only 15,000. I get it. You're in New York. You do have to, compete with the other sports markets. I mean, I'm used to it living in San Jose, where the Earthquakes, I've always had to compete with the Warriors, the A's, the recipes, the San Francisco Giants, the 49ers, right? Like, it's totally normal where big cities, you just have so much to do, right?
Yeah.
But I actually thought that the 2:30 start time could help that, right? Like, yeah, New York has a lot to do, but at 2:30, but it's interesting. And then there was also an issue at the gates where they switched over their ticket platforming, and then all the third market tickets, didn't send the tickets to the fans. So I bet you a lot of people didn't come because of that reason too, because the ticketing was a mess. But no, I'm just puzzled because this is an exciting team in MLS, and I would never expect it to have like that amount of fans on a opening day,
Yeah, no, you make a great point, proving how important public transportation is, especially in a city like this. But you bring up great points about the team. I mean, I think that if you look at the team on the field, this is the best story in MLS right now.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, you have a young coach with a obviously coaching pedigree in his family and his genes, and you have him starting 3 young players who combined for a goal at the weekend. And I love the way that they play. I mean, we can say it for real now. We saw Adrian Mehmeti in person. He is legit. He is the real deal. We know that for sure. And I think that Julian Hall is not actually getting enough credit as well, because I think he's the real deal too. What impresses me about Julian Hall is that he's a poacher. And you don't see that with young players.
Yeah.
You see them quick and speedy and moving around, but no, Julian Hall knows where to be at the right time to tap in that goal. And he's done it for all 3 of his goals, which have been all 3 of Red Bull's goals thus far. And that's why, like you say, they have a DP in Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, and he's getting benched or moved to the wing because Julian Hall is playing so well. So I think it's really exciting. And then, of course, you have Dos Santos in the fullback position. So it's a really exciting team with a really exciting young coach, and it's a great story. I hope it keeps developing in the way that it is.
And honestly, we were talking a little bit about this, and I won't dive too much into it, but if you're a USMNT fan, I mean, you may be watching the future here in New York or New Jersey, right?
Absolutely.
So if you love the national team, you should go see these guys while they're young and before they're in Europe, because if they keep this up, they're not going to be here for long. And that's the honest truth about it, right? So again, you could probably grab some cheap tickets and kind of see these guys play if you're a USMNT fan. And I want to see that stadium rocking, man. I want to see, 25,000 filled up. So we'll see if that happens this season. But yeah, that was just our kind of initial thoughts on all of that. And then this weekend we have NYCFC. Are you excited to kind of go up to the Bronx for the first time?
Yes, absolutely excited for that, especially after what they did last weekend in Philadelphia. That was a very exciting game, especially at the end there. Philly equalized in the 89th minute, and then Tavon Gray comes through with the 99th minute winner. Very exciting. They're going to be riding high, and yeah, we're going to see their home opener as well. It's going to be a really exciting game. I hope that they show out.
I'm kind of excited to see how that stadium feels. I mean, yeah, this is an MLS podcast. We're talking about MLS teams, but we're going to Yankee Stadium too, right? The Yankee Stadium is very historic. Tons of history there, or at least with that franchise. And I'm excited to see kind of, my favorite thing to do is if it's not an MLS stadium, to kind of see the memorabilia around the press rooms and things like that. So on a personal note, I'm more excited about that. But kind of, we're on a Kickbase podcast, right? So we definitely should talk a little bit of Kickbase. Let's go ahead and talk about like some performers that you thought did well, and maybe some that didn't do as well, but it was kind of expected, and then maybe some shockers in there as well.
Yeah, well, like I said at the start of the podcast, I think it was a week of stars. I mean, you had the Messi, Dreyer showing out and racking up the points. Maybe Bouanga didn't as much this week, but even if he's not scoring, he's still scoring kick-based points. And I think that's what we talked about in our first episode, that scoring system, that even if you're not scoring goals or assisting goals, you're still going to rack up those points as well. I think that, yeah, we saw a lot of players from all over the league step up, and it was... just a good week for stars, for players that are highly priced. I think our team of the game week was $280 million, which you can still afford. You can still get that entire team of the game week in your team, but it was a little bit more expensive than last week because the stars are showing out. Yeah,
look, shout out to whoever writes the team of the game week in Kickbase.
Who might that be?
Because that's actually an awesome stat. Like $280 million is what they cost. And that's some great insight because, again, you're not going to choose the same guys every week, and you're not going to choose. I mean, maybe one or two people are going to choose the correct game week, but the team of the game week. But hey, that's actually pretty cool to kind of see that you don't need the craziest budget to have the superstar type of caliber team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned some disappointments as well. You expected Seattle Sounders to play so well after what they did in game week 1. You look at the Paul Rothrocks and the Osaze de Rosarios that we were talking about in our last episode, and it didn't work out. Why? Because Salt Lake is a house of horrors for Seattle. We've learned that they have not won away there since the 2016 U.S. Open Cup. Yeah. It has been a decade since they have had success there. So it's interesting. You got to look at these things. That's what I was talking to you as well off the camera, because I think that we need to incorporate home field advantage a lot more when we're picking our teams in Kickbase, because maybe you pick a team who is playing a good matchup, but they're away, and it's a lot more difficult. We saw that with Columbus versus SKC, right? You might have thought Columbus was going to go in and roll, but that did not happen. It was a back and forth game that ended 2-2, and a really good game. Is SKC better than we thought? Is Columbus not as good as we thought? There's a lot of question marks to be had, but still some goals coming in and points to be had in your Kickbase team.
Yeah, look, the thought that road teams aren't going to play well is a very common thought in MLS, right? Like we can definitely look at all the stats all time. I mean, I know there's managers in the league that say, let's just get a point on the road.
Yep.
Like that's a common thought. So definitely to choose home field guys would be a plus because your algorithm's not going to see that or put it too much into account, right? But yeah, talking about disappointments, right? Like for me, I'm the biggest Jesus Ferreira stan you could ever find, right? I think Jesus Ferreira has the
Both
talent.
you have the main. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. He has the talent to, in my opinion, to be one of the better players in MLS. And in Kickbase, he got 4 points. Oof. 4 points, right? So it's
and what was Zaha's score?
Yeah, Zaha got -23.
Oof.
So I mean, Zaha can't be having those type of games because then no one's gonna choose him in Kickbase, right? So disappointing guys like. Who do you trust in Seattle, right? Like Seattle, the only person you could truly trust is Albert Rusnak because he's always on the ball. He's always involved. I know he's not the flashiest of DPs, right? But he definitely, in Kickbase, is one of the better players for sure.
Absolutely. Racks up the points. He's on the corner kicks, which I think is a little bit of a cheat code in Kickbase. If your player is on set pieces, they're getting a lot of crosses, a lot of passes, these type of things, maybe chances created as well. No, it's a great point you made. There in midfield, he is the real trustworthy one at the moment because they in Seattle have a big problem at winger already. They're very deep at winger, but they're also very injured at winger. You have Pedro de la Vega obviously out with his knee. Jordan Morris went out week 1 with the quad. Georgie Manungu missed training on Tuesday. He has a fracture in his foot, should be coming back. We shall see. And then Paul Rothrock also missed training, and he's we're going to have to see. He has a right ankle issue. Schmetzer says it's precautionary, but we're going to have to see. So if those guys start, maybe you're going to be able to pick them up. But if not, you might have Snyder Brunel starting at wing, and that's an interesting pick as well. And Osaze up top, maybe you got to fit Danny Musovski in there. There's a lot of question marks in that Seattle attack. There is a lot of players. There's a lot of talent, but who's fit and who's going to start and who's going to return you points? It's a big question each week.
And even like somewhere where everybody knows they're good at or they've been good at the last couple of years, their defense. I mean, I started Yeimar and I only got about 40 points, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, who do you trust on defense? And I think that's a great segue into, like, the next thing I wanted to talk about was, do you choose outside backs or center backs, right?
Yeah, no, this is a fantastic question. And I think it's a real debate in fantasy for a long time because typically you think of you want fullbacks because you're going to get those clean sheet points and you're going to get those attacking returns. But in Kickbase, every action is scored. You're getting those points for defensive actions. You're getting those points for passes from the back, making a long ball, things like this. And it turns out that in week 1, all 4 of the defenders in the team of the game week were center backs. This time, it was 2 of the 3 defenders were center backs. The only one that wasn't, we mentioned earlier, Tavon Gray with a 99th minute winner. I wonder why he made it in there, right? So it looks right now that center backs are getting a lot of returns. If you're going to have Max Arfston, who's going to respond and get those assists like he did maybe last year, if you're going to get somebody like that who's returning a lot of assists, maybe it'll be worth it. But right now, I'm leaning towards center backs.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting kind of strategy, right? Like, do you want to try to hit the home run and get the Daniel Muni to get 300 points, or do you want to go with the Max Arfston who gets 120, the Andy Nahar who gets 105, right? Like, is that good enough for your defense and in terms of pricing? But also, you know who I'm excited to come back for this position is Sergio Reguilon. He trained in full and should be back on the pitch this weekend versus DC United. So again, Jordi Alba was kind of a cheat code too. Like, he in last year's Kickbase was in the top, I think 15. You know, he had a crazy year last year, and everybody knows that he could deliver a great ball in, a deadly pass in. And Inter Miami hasn't looked the same without him, to be honest. I mean, yes, Messi's kind of played very well and kind of taken over that, but they don't have that second option that they did last year. And I think we're going to have to see if Reguilon can kind of fill in that void, but also if other players can kind of step up to the plate too. But yeah, I mean, do you want to go with the outside backs getting over 100 points, or do you want to go with the 300 to 60 range for the center backs, right? And that's the big question.
No, it's a great point you bring up about Reguilon. We know that Alba and Messi love to connect on those 1-2s,
right,
go back and forth and score goals that way. Reguilon expectedly will do something similar. Fantastic player, obviously. One of the highest priced, if not the highest priced defender in Kickbase. So it's going to be interesting. And now Messi is in form, we should say. He returned, got 2 goals in that amazing second half comeback against Orlando. Credit to Javier Mascherano as well for his halftime adjustments, adjusting that formation to basically go like for like with Orlando and just make it a talent game, and that worked out well. So that gives you more confidence as a Kickbase manager as well, I think, is to say, well, even if things aren't going to go right, I have faith in this manager to fix things and make sure my players are going to score points. So you have Messi, you have Segovia get a goal and 2 assists, I believe. So there's points to be had in that team for sure.
Yeah, honestly, a place where I'm not too comfortable is striker, though. Betarame has had 2 stinkers in a row. Yeah. Right? Am I going to go with the striker like Betarame, or am I going to go with the young guy like Julian Hall? Right? So it's interesting.
It's a good point.
I'm kind of looking at these teams that possibly need to score goals, and they don't have maybe the best striker situation up top, but that person's going to get a lot of opportunities. For example, St. Louis, Simon Betcher.
Yes.
Yeah. So a guy who's always on the ball somehow always finds a way to, get at the end of the cross, but maybe doesn't have the best finishing, but he's probably going to end up with over 100. While Betarame is going to get 20 to 40 points, even though he's one of the most clinical finishers in the league that we could possibly think of. So It is interesting to kind of think of, strikers have been disappointing too, at least some of the big names.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll go with Messi. I'll take the safe pick, and he's in Baltimore in front of a big crowd. He likes to perform when there's a big crowd, and I think he's going to do it again against DC.
Yeah, and Messi got his first Kickbase MVP of all time. If you guys don't know, Kickbase was also in La Liga, but they were in after Messi left. So this is actually Messi's first Kickbase MVP. So I was excited about that too. But basically, we kind of have to talk about a couple things before we preview the next week. So let's go straight into that. The special challenge this week is a good friend of mine, is Leo L Soccer Guy. If you are a LA kind of soccer fan, you've definitely seen his face. If you've seen any continental things or anything, you've definitely know about El Soccer Guy. And we're excited to kind of challenge him and challenge all you guys again. The rules are going to be 11 players, 200 million. And we're going to have 2 players max per team. So he's a big LAFC guy. So 2 players max per team. How do you choose 2 LAFC guys, right? Like, that's a tough one. 4 guys, Buonga, Son, Mark Delgado, and Estacio have killed it this last week. And I expect them to keep killing it this week with playing against FC Dallas.
Yeah, no, it's a great point that you bring up. I was staying away from those LAFC players this week. I thought about putting a Delgado or an Estacio, but LAFC did not have success in Houston. I don't believe they've won since 2019 there until this weekend. So it's another house of horrors for a very good team. The heat there has always been a problem, but if you have possession, your midfielders are going to do well. And LAFC did not have possession against Inter Miami, expectedly. They did have possession against Houston.
Because of the red card, too.
That helps, too. A couple of them. And but it's interesting. Is Mark Dos Santos going to be a coach that is more possession-based? That's what we expected. It seems like that's what we're starting to see. And if that's the case, you're going to want a Mark Delgado or an Estacio in your team because they're going to be very, very active. And if they can score a banger, which each of them did, then that's going to help you out too. In return, they both got into that team of the game week. So they are fantastic players. And if LAFC is going to possess the ball, they are really good pickups. They are expensive for a midfielder, but deservedly so. And then, of course, as you say, Son and Bawanga in the front line. It's the constant debate. Which one is it? Who's going to score more goals? I give the edge to Bawanga because he's slightly cheaper, and I think he's on penalties, which means that you're going to get a little bit more returns, but Sonny is the better player. I think we can all agree. So it's a tough debate there. It always is between those two. Either one is going to return you points, I would expect. Yeah,
so strategy basically for us so far is go cheap when you can, and then spend your money on guys who are MVPs. I mean, that's kind of where I'm going to take it. Thomas Mueller had a great game finally, coming back to what his normal form is. Messi, it almost felt like you had to have those guys. Like, you can't go too cheap in a sense where you need the guy to kind of take you to that next tier, and then you have to have those great picks behind them, right? So interesting. Now that we're on this, because 200 million is not too much, right? Cheap goalkeeper matchup or the goalkeeper you like? This is kind of another strategy topic that I wanted to bring up as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it's all about matchup with goalkeepers, to be honest with you. If you want to go cheap, we talked about Duran Ferri. He is getting the start again, even though Cisniega and Dos Santos were back.
And Cisniega resigned too.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a shock start, I think, in San Diego. You can go with a Švaki, but Švaki's not going to get you as many stops in Nashville because they're a better team, a better defense that's not going to concede as many shots. Do you want, like I went last week with Maxime Crepeau, who I thought would face a lot of shots against an Inter Miami team. He played well in week 1, and he was doing well up until halftime when they were up 2-0, and he was saving the shots. I believe he had 80 points or something, and then he got minus 20 in the second half because he was conceding goals that maybe he shouldn't be conceding and not making those saves. So it really is a balancing act there with the goalkeepers, but you have a Christian Kalina, who is one of the higher priced goalkeepers in the game, and he is continuing to return points.
Yeah.
And then you have goalkeepers who are not as expensive also returning points. So that's why I think it's a matchup game, and I think that's generally true for the defense and the goalkeeper. I think maybe when you move to the midfield and forward, then you can look at more of those MVPs, as you were saying, because Messi's going to continue to return. Dreyer, you would expect to continue to return. Thomas Muller, we can go on and on about these guys who are performing, and at their price, you would expect them to do so. I think that strategy is exactly what I'm going to do in this special challenge, and as well as my leagues. And speaking about leagues, I want to give a quick update on the Play the Pro League. Your boy's number 1. I was going to say, I think you're beating all of the players, aren't you?
Your boy's number 1. And I want to say this, Hanny, Julian, Thomas.
He's calling y'all out.
They've all played this game before, and your boy's number 1. All right. So it's going to be a great time. I play my great friend, Eli Lesser, in this league once more this week. And just like week 1, you're going down, my friend. You're going down. So we'll have more Play the Pro updates for you, a little more insights as well. But yeah, the guys in the league are having a great time. I think their picks are very interesting. And I kind of want to say that there's a lot of guys who pick their former teammates. There's a lot of guys who pick players that are MVPs in the league. For example, Bouanga's a very, very big pick in this league. Dreyer's another big pick in this league. So there is mutual respect for other stars in this league too, because sometimes you don't really believe in other players and things like that, but that's not the case.
And there's also some confidence as well with players captaining themselves. That's what I love to see. Yeah,
exactly. And I truly think that it's interesting to see kind of what formations and what type of tactics or strategies they bring to the game. And I'll have more insights for you guys there. But now, taking a look at this next upcoming weekend, we have something to, announce kind of in a way where if you haven't been watching the news, Houston and the Revolution, they're not going to play this weekend. So make sure you don't line up no Houston Dynamo players, no Revolution players, because you're taking a big fat 0 if you're lining them up. Okay. So again, avoid those guys. Don't do anything. I mean, Bogus looks always nice in your lineup, but don't line them up this week. Okay. And yeah, I think there's some great matchups. Timo Werners is a guy who we didn't talk about, who got his first assist, looked great. Oseni Buddha is a guy who maybe can be a sneaky pick. With him and Timo, they look like they already had this pace and connection with each other, which is actually kind of wild. Shout out to my friend Oseni, my boy, my San Jose connection, but he might be in my lineup because now all of a sudden they have a guy who, like Timo, who can drag those defenders to him and leave Buddha right open. So I think that can be a sneaky pick, and they play against Philadelphia, a team who maybe doesn't look too good in the back, or at least they have some question marks.
It's a great shout because I was actually on the press conference for that game after Timo Werner came on, got an assist in his debut. And he actually recalled a story at halftime. He went over to Oseni Buddha and said, if I'm on the wing, just go to goal. Don't stop. Run to goal. I'm going to find you, because Oseni Buddha, he knows, is the fastest guy there.
Yeah.
And he said, that's who I was thinking about. That's who I see. And then Oseni Buddha, after the goal was scored, came over to Timo Werner and said, that's what you just said was going to happen. You called it. Yeah. And Timo Werner said, hey, that's my football, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story because honestly, that team is 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, at the top of the table. Stop the count. No, I'm kidding. I think this is a great storyline, just like the Red Bulls on this side, right?
Yes.
They're both young teams, exciting teams, and shockers in a way too. So is there any other matchup that you're kind of looking at this weekend that really catches your eye?
This Chicago-Columbus game looks very interesting to me because I'm still unsure about Columbus. I'm high on Chicago. I think they're going to be good this year, and I want to see how Columbus matches up at home against a good team like that. I don't know if I'm going to be lining up a bunch of players, but Wessam Abu Ali looks fantastic right now. He looks like one of the better nines in the entire league. He can drop deeper. He can get involved, but he will also get in the box and score you those goals. So yeah, a lot of good options there. I know that I was debating between Rossi and Abu Ali last week. I ended up going with Rossi. Abu Ali scored the first goal, and I was regretting it, and then he missed the penalty, but we're not going to talk about that. He's doing a great job, I think, and could be a very good pick. But, of course, on the other end, you have Hugo Kuipers, Philip Zinkernagel, lots of players, and Lod came in and scored in stoppage time as well. So a lot of good options in that game, and I think it's going to be a really interesting one there as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, Red Bull as well. I think Julian Hall has to be in a lot of people's lineups this week after scoring all 3 of Red Bull's goals thus far. He's.
It's interesting because my strategy this week is going to be choosing the strikers that are one of a kind, and then also kind of getting some cheap young guys in the mix. So maybe actually. Let me roll that back. Choosing midfielders that are one of a kind, and then going with strikers that are young, like a Julian Hall or Oseni Buda, because I don't know. I can't not have Messi in my lineup after what he did last week. And you said a big game, 60,000 in Baltimore. It's gonna be a great time there. And I think he always shows up in pro Messi big crowds. Not in Cascadia though. And I think it's gonna be a great match week game week, excuse me. And I think it's going to be an all around another great Kickbase week. But that's it for us from here. From the podcast, our another episode down, and make sure you stay tuned and download Kickbase, set your lineups before the first game. And that's it for us.
And where can they find you on socials, Favi?
Me? They can find me at Kickbase USA and at Favian Renkel. What about yourself?
At Justin Ruderman on Twitter, Justin.Ruderman on Instagram, whatever you need.
Why the dot?
Why the dot? Because they try and steal my usernames more. Or you could follow, whatever you need. Find me. My name's unique. You'll find me.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next week.